Hi, my name is Ivy Starnes, and I'm a gaited horse trainer in Fort Worth, Texas. Today we're talking about treats, specifically using them for training, so not just if you want to give your horse a treat or a special food. This is about what can you use for training, how do you use it, how much food, does it matter, and what if your horse is fat or overweight or has metabolic issues and they can't have sugary things like grain. So I have a whole bunch of videos or a whole bunch of links in the description of the video that gives you options. Now, some of these things are available in the UK and some in the United States, and if you live in other cities, it could be tough because you would maybe have a difficult time finding a specific thing. However, that's why there are an awful lot of options. Very first thing I want to talk about is that you can feed anything. You can feed anything that your horse would eat normally. So that could be handfuls of grass. It could be handfuls of hay. There's some really fun stuff called chopped hay that you can buy. Or someone had this really great suggestion. You can get a mini wood chipper for making wood chips, and you can put your own hay through that, and it'll chop it up into little pieces, and you can feed that. The other thing, too, is your horse has any allergy issues, you can go ahead and use that chopped hay, and you could soak it a little bit to make sure it's more moist and not as dusty. That's an easy one to do. Now, this question gets asked a lot, which is why I'm doing it, but it probably won't be a very popular video, but we're going to go ahead and go through some of the things anyway. So, let's see here. Things you can use. Hay, chopped hay, which you can buy or make your own. Fruit and veggies. There's a ton of options, from apples and pears and watermelon to carrots, cucumbers. There's a lot of different options. You can also find just tons of articles on what fruits and vegetables you can feed your horse. Just Google it. You can feed grain, or alternatively, rather than giving extra grain, you can go ahead and feed whatever grain your horse would normally get. So if your horse gets 1 pound of ration balancer mixed feed a day, you can use that during a training session instead of doing it on a routine schedule. You can feed regular treats. Go to the store. There are gazillions of kinds, and there's links in the description for a lot of different kinds that you can get, but they're often more expensive. So when you buy a package, we're going to have more, and it has like 2 pounds of treats in it. I'll go through 2 pounds in a single training session. So it can get very pricey, as opposed to get good quality, low starch feed for a 50-pound bag. While that's going to cost you, $40, $50, $70, that little bag of treats, it's 2 pounds and it's going to cost you $20 to $30. You add that up, it's cheaper to buy the feed. You can do handfuls of grass. If you're out and riding, grass can be a great option. Just pill up handfuls, or give them a cue that says it's okay to graze. Peanuts in the shell. I haven't done this, but I've had a lot of people say this. If you're in the United Kingdom, you can use hay cobs. Whole oats. I've done a lot of feeding oats. It's maybe what you call lower value, but it's also not as processed. Black sunflower seeds or Chaffhaye, which I have used and I do like. The horses can sometimes take a little bit longer to get the hang of that. Hopefully this video is working. I'm not seeing black. I'm only seeing black video, but it seems like it's streaming. And normally if it's not working, you guys comment and tell me. Okay, so those are some options. And then if you scroll down on the link in the description, you'll see tons of links. So if your horse does have metabolic issues, there's a lot of low starch things you can use. And we've had horses at clinics, and we'd had to be very specific what we fed them. Everybody says it's working fine, so we'll just go with the fact that it's the internet on my side that's not showing it. All right, I do want to talk about feeding treats because I address this in most clinics, so hopefully people will watch this video. So let's say you actually do have a treat, something round, or, like those longer treats, or you're feeding carrots or apples, and you're feeding from the saddle or from the ground. Specifically, this comes when you feed from the saddle, and you bend down and your horse reaches back and you try to feed something. And this is how I see people try to feed. They feed just like this, or like this, or like this. And do people's fingers get pinched? Absolutely, because we all know you're supposed to feed your hand flat, right? Okay, but what if you try to feed from the saddle and the treat just rolls off? Okay, right? Because you have to lean down. So here's what I teach is, and you can do this for dogs too. So no matter what kind of treat you have, you basically do this. So the treat is pinched between your thumb and your palm, and then you can turn your hand upside down, sideways, doesn't really matter, and then you can reach down, and right when your horse is going to eat, you can even just while they're going like this, you can just take your thumb away, and then they can all of a sudden get to it. But if you try to feed like this, they will probably accidentally get your fingers at some point. So that's how to feed from the saddle. Feed like this, pinched between the thumb. It's pretty easy, and yeah, it works really well. You do that if it's round treats. If you have grain, I'll put it in my hand like this, and then when I feel their tongue, I'll open my hand right when their face is there, but I'll close my hand like this. Okay. Danae says she's glad to be here. Good, glad you're on here, Danae. Diana says, glad you're doing this one. I feed treats. Megan says it's working fine. And there's I do have information with clicker training. If you're worried about your horse mugging, there's a link for the free video in the description. Because people ask about this is what I feed from. It's called the Pocket Plus. Right there. And the website is thepocketplus.com. I'm not sponsored by their product. All the links that I gave you, I don't make any money from. I'm just sharing them out of the kindness of my heart. And you can give people your business or not. It doesn't bother me. This is the size extra large. Now, you have to wear this with a belt, basically. So this is a magnet right here. Okay? And it goes on your belt, so you can just slide it on, and then you can also just slide it right off. It has a large pocket here that goes all the way down. And then it's got the second smaller one, which I keep stuff. Sometimes I take my hair stuff out and put it in there, and sometimes it doesn't usually hold my phone, but because I have the horse holster for that. But this is what I use to feed treats, called the Pocket Plus. I love it, but I always wear a belt. If you don't wear a belt, there's probably some other options that'll be better for you. So there you go. That's what I tend to use for what I use to feed treats on the ground and from the saddle. And if I'm doing a large amount of sessions, I'll have 2 bags. Sometimes the extra large and the large, or just 2 extra large bags, like one on each hip. Megan says, definitely haven't mastered that technique yet. My horse chomped my palm a little bit the other week. So hopefully that technique will help you, Megan. Otherwise, work at training your horse to only take food when they use their tongue. And I have a video about that as well. Susan says, my horse has muscle disease, PSSM. Always looking for low sugar treats. So in the links, there's a bunch of descriptions there. I didn't identify them because it would take a while, but click on the stuff. And some of them are specifically for horses that have diseases like PSSM. Or some of those other diseases. Herballs is another option. And for you, if they can have hay, chopped hay or hay replacer, such as like Timothy pellets, those are good. Now, some people say, and it's a little controversial, that pellets can cause a horse to choke. I mean, if your horse can chew really well, you probably won't have an issue. If you have an older horse and they can't chew, look for something softer. Feel free to soak the hay first. Susan says, not getting anything here, but trying to load the trying to load thing. Here's the thing. If anybody's watching it, and if you're not seeing anything, just wait until the video finishes and watch then. I don't know why it's working for some people and not working for others. Hopefully we can get it. It's working fine for Chrissy. Okay, excellent. We'll just keep going. So those are my suggestions, including how to feed the treat safely. Let's talk about how much to feed. if you're using the food for training, when you start to train anything new, you will be feeding a lot. If you have a treat pouch like this one, this holds about a pound of grain. I will use all of this up in 5 to 10 minutes if I'm working at teaching a horse to say target train or touch their forehead to my hand or anything new, come to the mounting block. Now, if only working at 5-minute sessions, you obviously won't use a whole bag of these, but you'll use, half of it because you're using so much. When you're teaching a horse something new, you want to train and feed a lot of food and treats, which is why it can get expensive if you just buy the little treats. Now, there are times to use food and use it sparingly. When you ride, you can let them graze. You can just use 1 or 2 treats occasionally. But there's going to be times when, depending on what you're training, you're going to use a lot. So I was working with Flynn to get him used to the water. That video is on my private training group, and I was using a lot of food. I'm going to try to get a video of working with a horse, like if you have clippers, and I'll probably be using a lot of food. And I'm looking forward to making that video for you guys. But I want you guys to know that sometimes you'll be using gobs of food. Now, let's say your horse is over-aroused with food or really, really interested in the food. First thing you can do, make sure they've had whatever grain they're going to have that day. They've had fresh hay, grass, access to it 24/7 before you get them out. If your horse is really, really motivated by that food, maybe feed them a pound or 2 of something low starch before you get going so that they're kind of full ahead of time, because you don't want them so focused on the food that they're not interested in the training. Now, the other thing too that I found is I started mixing in the chopped hay, like I think it was just chopped Timothy, with some low starch feed or some higher value treats and use that. The reason to use hay is because it causes them to chew longer. When a horse is chewing, they are working at being calm, and they're usually standing still, giving you the opportunity to reinforce them again for things like standing calmly. All right. So that's why chopped hay can be very, very handy. And having variety is good. You could have 1 treat pouch with chopped hay. You could have another treat pouch with different kinds of treats and or just the grain or ration balancer. I've used ration balancer and had really good success. There's also, I should put the link in there. I will. There's another thing. That's another supplement that's not, it's called Combat Boots Performance Equine Nutrition, and they sell like a yeast. It's a supplement, but it's a low starch, and I'll have to find where that is. And it works, like some of the horses really, really like it, and it's not going to give them a bunch of carbs. They don't need as much as we're going to give it. There it is. It's kind of expensive, but it works really well for stress and ulcers, which is also just something good to know anyway. I'll try to share that. I'll put it in the comments. All right. Nicole says, high rates of reinforcement when learning new behavior for sure. Absolutely. So yes, when we talk about giving lots of food, we're doing what's called a high rate of reinforcement, where we give them so much for learning something new, whether it's touching a target, coming to the mounting block, coming to us, standing still, stepping on a target, going on the mounting block. Whenever they're doing something new, like learning the gait, learning to walk on, learning to canter, use a high rate of reinforcement. Use a lot of food. You can back off on the food once they've learned it, and also very slowly, so as not to get frustrated or the horse frustrated, also increase the criteria or duration. And those are things we can talk about another time. You can look those up. Those are common terms in the positive reinforcement world or R+ world. I'm not seeing any other questions on here. So if anybody has a question, jump on. Otherwise, we'll end this one a little early. I just wanted to go through and see. Let's see. Chrissy says, I've heard peanuts are great for the sugar-sensitive horse, but could be bulky in a bag. Yes. you could need a couple bags or a big bag. Now, I've seen some people feed and they have giant bags on their hips to work with the horses. And that's pretty awesome because they're going to put like a chopped hay and lots of other things in there where like in this bag, you can't fit that much chopped hay by weight. It just doesn't. It's a nice big size bag. You can see it compared to my hand, but it's not going to hold a lot of chopped hay. So depending on your situation, have more close by or be ready to go get more. It can give your horse a break. If you do have to leave the area and go get more, it can give your horse that little mental break, which is a good thing. And probably something I should do more often. It's easy to just want to do it. Sue asked again, I know I said in a recent video you answered the type and size of the treat bag you used. Curious about the name and also why the extra large size. So I don't have the large size right here. This is the biggest they make. The other size, the large, is almost like half this size, and it's hard to get your hand in. Now, if you have little hands, not a problem, but when you're trying to feed a treat quickly, I like this larger size, and it's not that big. Let's just, for comparison. Here's a DVD case. Right, here you go. Right, it's thin. Gives you just a little bit bigger than a DVD case. There you go. Danae says, can we talk about other topics or you have to stick with treats today? No, you can ask another question. It can be on anything. Michelle says, what do you do if your horse starts to get pushy for treats? I'm so glad you asked, Michelle. There's a free video. There's in the description, there's a link to the free video, and I'll copy it again here. If your horse gets pushy, it means you need to train them to be respectful, which is super easy to do. And I will go ahead and post the link there. If you want the full video, you can join my private training group and see that full video there. But that's the exact same technique that I've used. And I've had many people tell me that they have done this and been very successful. So even horses that I didn't work with, they used this technique and they went and they were able to get their horses that were huge muggers, and within a matter of a couple of days, the horse changed its personality so completely that people at the barn thought it was magic. Well, it's not. It's just horses do what works, just like all animals. And if searching you for treats and getting pushy gets them more, they have no reason to stop. So we need to train them using food to have good behavior and good manners around people, even when people have food. Angie says, hi, hey, nice to hear you, Angie. So yeah, okay, so that answers those questions. So yeah, a lot of times issue of treats comes up. I don't use treats for every horse at clinics. I use treats for my horses, train them to not be pushy. I used it. Flynn didn't like water sprayed on him, and within like 2 sessions, I could spray it almost everywhere on his body without him moving. Where the first day, like I turned the hose on and he was jumpy and didn't like it. And so using food just in 2 short sessions got it where he was like, oh, this isn't so bad. You can spray me. And he looks like a different horse about that. And then I'm hoping to do a video soon. I'll maybe get the footage tomorrow, and it'll probably go on my whole thing will go on my private training group of how to get a horse used to clickers. So here's the deal though. I don't own clippers, how to, to clip your horse. I don't own any, but they said a good option if you don't have any or you don't have a battery powered set. And, it's hard to like work when there's an outlet with your horse right there. If you have to be attached to the outlet, is I bought a massage tool. And because it vibrates similar to clippers, you can use that, and it's battery powered, so you're not attached to the wall. You can use that to simulate or get very, very close to your horse getting comfortable with the idea of clippers. And then when you actually use clippers, they're going to be like, oh, we were used to the vibrations on our face and head and ears and legs. And so I'm going to hopefully try to get a video doing that with a couple horses using clicker training. Danae says, I just got my raised snaffle bit. My question is, should I leave his bit as it is and work on head down, or should I introduce the new snaffle bit at the same time working on head down? Danae, so I apologize if you've told me what bit it is. What bit do you have in now? If it is a snaffle, continue working on head down. If it is a shanked bit, I would encourage you to, in an enclosed area, switch to the snaffle, continue working on head down. And then if you trail ride, make sure you put your shanked bit back in so that you stay safe. It's also optional if you want to alternate back and forth between the two bits. There's nothing wrong with that at all, and can have a lot of benefits to go back and forth. My friend Chrissy, who, she's commenting on this a lot, she was riding her horse in just a little shanked, it's like a reining bit. I don't know. It's just a little shanked bit. And her horse was doing great. And she decided to switch to a snaffle and realized that her horse decided she was just going to blow through that snaffle, even though she'd started training her with the snaffle. So she decided, okay, we're going to take some time. We're going to go back to the snaffle for a little while. And then when she competes, she'll put that little shanked bit in. And that is a fantastic way to train, to switch between different bits so that your horse doesn't get used to that harsh bit. So they learn to be soft even when they're in a snaffle. And so her horse is doing really well. Danae says, thank you. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, as always, please share this video. That helps so much. And I don't have any videos scheduled right now. I'm going to be gone out of town. I don't know next week if I'll get to any. We'll see. Just keep watching. And you guys, you are amazing and ask such good questions. And I hope you guys do really well this weekend. And with the training you have, you got this.